Hi, I'm Becky Rupert McMahon, Chief Executive of the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association. Cleveland is getting ready to elect a new mayor for the first time in over 16 years. How well do you know the two final candidates, Justin Bibb and Kevin Kelley? They certainly have some similarities, but they also present clear differences. CMBA President Rose Fini recently had the opportunity to sit down one-on-one with both Kevin and Justin. She asked them questions of particular importance to the legal community. And here are their answers. I invite you, listen, compare, and decide. And then most importantly, go vote on November 2nd. The next chapter in Cleveland's history is about to be written.
Thank you, Councilman, for coming to talk with us today at the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association. Since we're the Bar Association, we'll focus a little bit on some legal issues. The first being one of the most important issues on our minds and the community's minds is the Justice Center, the new jail, criminal justice reform. How will you, if elected mayor, help move the ball forward with respect to bail reform, use of the diversion centers, and those sorts of things?
Thank you. So we are on the front end of everything that you just described. We've taken some steps towards bail reform, but what I've learned as a member of the Justice Center Steering Committee is that we can't really institute jail reforms with what we have. Just the physical layout of the jail right now, it invites problems. We need to really look at a different, a more modern jail that is more, more humane and really gives the corrections officers and others a better opportunity to manage this in a way that is both provides for the safety of the defendants and the safety of the COs. Now, we have taken some steps in bail reform, but we need to take more. We need to start looking at the fact that there's too many people are in jail because they can't afford a cash bail. That can't be okay. Your financial situation should not determine your legal situation. You should not be in jail because for a similar crime that somebody with means can get out.
And you mentioned the steering committee, and it's been meeting for over 2 years.
Yes.
Now, we see the Cleveland.com report, the last 2 meetings you have not been able to attend. Is that because of your schedule conflict?
No, so I've been at every meeting, and I have because they're long meetings. You have to block out a lot of time. I have an alternate that I appointed for times when I can't, and it's to the point where we'd call and say I have to step off for 30 minutes if we vote on this. We need to go this. So this past meeting was one of the very few calendar errors that have happened in my career, and those just happened. But there wasn't a vote taken, and in addition, I think if Cleveland.com wanted to devote some resources and go back to the 16 years that I've been on council, they'd probably find that I have, if not 100% attendance, really close.
Equally important to our community are the elections. And
yes.
we're seeing around the country that election laws and election processes are under attack, but bringing it locally, while we do have a bill pending in the General Assembly, our turnout in the primary was about 15-16%. Mm-hmm. What can you do locally to get more participation in the election process?
We're just dealing with some difficult circumstances where, why do people not vote? Is it because they don't feel a part of the system? They not feel connected to these decisions? We as candidates, myself as an elected official, just need to make sure that we are pushing forth a message that you are the future. This is your government. This is your city. Who you vote for is going to decide where this city goes over at least probably the next 8 years.
What we know folks show up for our Browns games.
Yes, they do.
And speaking of the Browns, we saw that 2 legislators called for the name of First Energy to be removed from the Cleveland Browns Stadium. And we know that there's a sponsorship agreement in place. Have you had the chance to look at that sponsorship agreement? Is that even a possibility?
I was involved when the First Energy naming rights came up. I was very involved because I was like, this just can't be. Like, the city gets nothing from this? Wait, how can this be? The contract is written in such a way that's what it prescribes. The city of Cleveland does not have a vehicle a legal or procedural vehicle to require the removal of that. That would be something that's between the Browns and First Energy, and they would have to choose to either find their way out of that contract or break the contract.
Since we were talking about the stadium on the lakefront, just a quick question about Burke Lakefront Airport.
Yes. Sure. Well, I'm not quite sure what the question is, but since you left it open, I'll just take some liberty with it. Any candidate that says I'm going to close Burke Lakefront Airport on my first day or whenever, that is an irresponsible statement, and you should just cross that person off your list, because Burke Lakefront Airport is important to the region for many reasons. But the reason you can't just close it, and I know that that's just part of the populist language that we use in the city of Cleveland, but there's two things. There's the real estate and there's the operation. The real estate itself, we have had options with developers to test the soil, to test whether or not this would sustain development. And you got to remember, Burke Lakefront Airport was a landfill where they used to burn it at the end of the day, and it was built out by dredge. So we've had service roads that were put in there that just sank. We've had equipment we couldn't get back. And the developers that so much would have liked to develop found that you would have to get to any kind of bedrock, to put any kind of footers down. The cost wouldn't, it's just not, it is cost prohibitive to do so. That's without the environmental issues. You would have to scrape approximately 6 feet of earth over these 500 acres and replace that to deal with the environmental issues below. People talk about making it a park. Well, I wouldn't let my kids play there, knowing what I know about what's there. Operationally, you can't say I'm going to close Burke Lakefront Airport and still say that Hopkins is the front door to Cleveland. We have to make sure that air travel is a priority of ours, because if Burke were to close, some of those smaller planes they would have the right to, as public airports, be at Hopkins. The problem there is that our legacy carriers, that would slow down our takeoff and landing schedule, because the smaller planes need more time, the turbulence, they would spin out of control if they're too close to one of the bigger planes. So it is important that we realize what's all involved here. If we do think that business travel is important, if we do think that connectivity to other cities is important, we can't just irresponsibly say I'm going to close Burke Lakefront Airport.
So talking about the lakefront and downtown, in the legal community, we're seeing firms having more folks working from home, perhaps not coming downtown. What would you do, if elected mayor, to keep the downtown vibrant?
We need to make sure that we are addressing those things. Why do people want to work downtown? Why did downtown have this resurgence? Why are there over 20,000 people that live downtown? They're doing so not because the people you described, they're not coming back downtown because they love their cubicles. They're coming downtown for the experience, the street level retail, the restaurants. We need to help them. We need to help those that have been hurt most by COVID, because that's a critical part of downtown. That's a critical part of why people choose downtown. It's a critical part of why we are able to attract the businesses, the law firms to the downtown. We have to make sure that happens. We've always had people working at home, from home, but COVID brought that to a different level. But I really think that the production is better in the office. I think that people want to. I think we've been at our kitchen tables long enough. We just have to give them the reason to come back downtown.
Sure. And talking about COVID-19, we wish we weren't still talking about it. The vaccine mandate that we're waiting to see what OSHA rules are going to be. How will you navigate that possible vaccine mandate of employees?
Vaccine is the absolute best weapon we have against COVID. It is the one thing that we can do to protect both yourself and your community against this deadly disease. In terms of the mandate, unfortunately, those things have become very politicized. It's become a political issue. And in terms of personal rights, I like the approach that I believe United took, where you don't have to get a vaccine, but you need to contribute to the increase in our premium that our healthcare plan has had to bear. Maybe we don't mandate, or maybe if you aren't vaccinated, maybe you need to have frequent testing and prove to people that you're not infected. we have to protect our community first. The worst part about this whole conversation really is the political nature that it's has taken over.
The potential for evictions.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of infusion of federal dollars, and but those dollars will run out. What would happen once those dollars run out and we still have the issue with a number of people facing eviction? We know you're on council during the right to counsel that was put in place, but talk to us about some of your thoughts on down the road.
Sure. So I was more than on council. I was the council president, I was the sponsor, and I really believe I put that together, working with legal aid, with the Bar Association, with a number of other entities on the Housing Justice Alliance. The money will run out, yes, but I think that the safety net is that representation. The safety net is that there will be a lawyer to make sure that the tenant's rights are represented. Non-payment will never be a defense in the state of Ohio, but what I really hope happens is that before a landlord brings that case, through clean hands doctrine, they don't have open violations, that their house is up to code, that there are affirmative defenses that an otherwise unrepresented tenant could assert. Now they're going to know. Now they're going to go with a lawyer. Now they're going to say, okay, here's our affirmative defense. The roof is leaking. You have not, you had the lights were shut off, and you were supposed to pay that. Right now, there is money that the city gave to CHN Housing Partners for just this purpose. There is still money there. It will eventually run out. Hopefully we do get back to some sort of normal, but hopefully the new normal involves better representation for tenants, for low-income tenants facing eviction.
Because of the challenges of COVID, we saw the Buckeye Institute, file the challenges in all the major cities in Ohio regarding the income tax distribution and being allowed to be collected. If they are successful with their litigation and the courts determined that it was inappropriate for the major cities like Cleveland and Cincinnati, Columbus to continue to collect that income tax while folks were working in a different jurisdiction. Have you given some thought to how we would fill the gap? What
might happen in the future? There's always people that are going to attack cities. There's always those that are going to attack our source of income, and that's just the way the world works, unfortunately. So we really need to just start looking, what could happen. We have not seen a lot of appeals. We have not seen some influx in appeals because from a taxpayer perspective, do they really think that the amount of time and effort they put into I only work 20% from home. Tax code needs to be simple, it needs to be understandable, it can't be complicated. Should the city of Cleveland go to the Court of Common Pleas and the federal court, municipal court, and look at the different lawyers that appeared that might have an office on Rockside Road and go figure out what our chunk is because they were in Cleveland for those days? It's got to be simple. It's got to be easy. We need to, it's got to be where your office is. It's got to be, where you're earning your income.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for running for office. It's a very courageous and very, very energetic thing you have to do, and we appreciate folks stepping forward and running for office because we need good people.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and
all right.
Look forward to talking to you next, hopefully as your mayor.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.